Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest on the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today I have Ken Mahar on the line, and he's a founder and CEO of Email Broadcasts. Ken, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Adam. Pleasure to be here.
All right, Ken. So I'm excited to get into email broadcasts. For those that have been watching the show for a long time, they know I'm always talking about email and I have a preference for it. And they're like, what email? Why? Like, there's all these other things. And I'm like, no. So they may not always believe me, but now that's why I brought you on the show. So you're gonna help me with selling this one of why email is still so important and so relevant. And so we'll get into that and we're gonna have a nice discussion. But just to get us kicked off, I'll start this show like I start them all. With our signature question. So Ken, we at Mission Matters, we amplify stories for entrepreneurs, executives, and experts. So that's our mission here. Ken, what mission matters to you?
You know, Adam, I love business. And it may be corny, but I still believe in the American dream. And being a business owner is like the path for many people to achieve their dreams. And it doesn't matter what your background is, or your education level, what part of town you grew up in. I see owning a business as kind of the great equalizer. And when I get to personally help a business thrive by using a super powerful marketing tool like email marketing, I was like, I get goosebumps. And, I also know that there are real people behind the businesses that we help. I'm helping to send a business owner's kids to college. I'm providing employment for their people. I'm helping the end customers that they serve. So that's what helps me sleep at night, what gets me out of bed in the morning.
That's awesome. It's amazing.
Yeah. And being a business owner myself, I've been able to employ many people beyond myself. And I've also been able to give to the causes that I care about, right? There are like 3 organizations that we support as a company. There's Pencil Promise. We're on a mission to build a school. 1% for the planet, where we give 1% of our sales, not our profits, but our sales.
Wow.
to an environmental cause. And then Every Town for Gun Safety, helping to eliminate gun violence. So giving back is part of our mission too.
That's awesome. So let's go further into email broadcasts. So I know we've kind of skirted around the topic. Like, obviously, you send emails, you help clients with marketing, but like, tell us specifically, like, just tell us a little bit more about the company.
My entrepreneurial journey got started pretty quickly. Or pretty early. I was about 13, I think, when I started mowing lawns around town. And then I think I won a contest, like selling shoes door to door out of a catalog for some school thing. And one time I worked on a fishing trawler for like a week with a friend of mine, and we didn't get paid in cash. They paid us in salmon. And I was like, what am I going to do with all this fish? So I set up like a instant pop-up fish stand at the end of my one-way bridge into town, and I sold the salmon for like $5 a pound. And anyway, so I've kind of this entrepreneurial spirit for a long time. But as far as email broadcast goes, it's kind of a classic story of solving my own needs. I was cold calling C-level executives for a high-tech firm in Seattle, and I'm trying to set up appointments for new technology that nobody'd had or even heard of. And it was a tough gig. And I was calling like CIOs of Fortune 500, right? So I was killing myself, competing for number one every month. And I found it super frustrating when I couldn't book the appointment because it took me so long to get the guy on the phone the first time. I'm like, I need a better way to follow up. So I went and found this whole email system. It was a list server. And it was kind of—
What year was this, Ken? I got to put this in perspective.
Yeah, this is
you've been in the email business for a long time.
Oh yeah, this is back in 99 or 2000.
It's crazy.
I do my best to get the appointment, but if I couldn't, I would say, hey, listen, can I at least get your email address so I can stay in touch, right? And so I started building an email list. And the first month, I only had like 40 people on there or something. But I sent my first message out, my first broadcast, and it was personalized. I like mail merged the guy's name in there. Nobody was doing this before, at all. So they all thought it was an original email from me. And I got like 4 replies that said, yeah, let's meet.
Wow.
Well, that was an entire week's worth of work to get 4 meetings, right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, whoa. And then the next month I sent out to more people because I have more people on my list. And I got like 6 appointments. So I'm top of the leaderboard. I'm walking out of the I'm whistling Dixie walking out of the place at like 5:01 p.m. Everybody else is, going, how does he do it? I ended up getting promoted to the inside sales manager role and then became a territory manager. But anyway, so I solved my own problem. I need a way to follow up with all these people that I've been contacting in a scalable, natural way.
Yeah.
And email marketing was it. And so it was so powerful that I ended up taking it to a couple of former employers that I had. I'm like, God, these guys should be doing email marketing. And I took it to them and they're like, we don't know how to do this. Can you do it for us? I'm like, yeah, sure. So I started running that on the side on the weekends after my job, which was already a big job. And eventually something had to give. And I decided to go full time with email broadcast and kind of never look back.
Wow, that's I mean, that's quite a story. And I think I have to circle back and bring this one up because I didn't want to interrupt you, but I cannot believe that you have a selling fish story as well. That was that's a Grant Cardone story. I remember reading
really?
his book. It might have been like Sell or Be Sold or something like that, but he tells this story about knocking on doors selling fish. And and I'm like, I wanted to jump out of my chair just now because I've met people that, you sell candy and, candy in school, you sell comic books. I was a comic book guy. I was a baseball card guy, like selling cards and stuff like that. But fish, I'm like, there's another Grant Cardone story. I didn't know there was another person on the planet that set up a fish stand or started knocking on doors selling fish. It's an amazing story.
Yeah, Grant's great. I've met him a couple of times, but he's a crazy guy. He was in the car business too, so was I, and that's how I kind of learned to meet him. I actually opened up my own car lot too. I forgot about that entrepreneurial deal. That was great. I ended up selling that to my partner. That was good. So yeah, I've been doing the entrepreneurial thing for a while.
That's a great story. And another thing that I like about email broadcast is really like you set it up and you started it because there was a need there, right? There was something that you were fulfilling a need for yourself, and then you saw a way to maybe add value and to give it to the marketplace. Like what kind of advice would you give? There's some people watching this right now, and they may be in that same place where they're solving problems for themselves and they're thinking, maybe this idea has legs. Maybe like I should consider this as a business, because right now it seems like common sense, right? Like you're like, oh, sending out emails, you make money, you get paid. But when you were doing this is like, oh, let's just go to the moon or whatever.
Yeah,
like,
this was secret ninja stuff. Yeah.
People watching this are probably like, what are they talking about? It's email. Like, no, it wasn't like that back then. You have to remember, what was that? Your AOL email address back then or something like that. And if you're still using that right now and you're watching this, bless you. But I'm just saying that, no offense, but like it was big stuff you were doing back then. So again, circling back to the question, like what kind of advice would you give to people that are maybe solving problems for themselves? They're working for someone full time right now, and they're thinking, maybe this idea or this thing that I'm doing has some legs.
Yeah, well, it's a classic entrepreneurial story, right? I mean, a lot of businesses started this way where people are just like, and if you can't think, just sit down and think, make a list of what are the 10 most common annoying things that you deal with every day, and just get your mind to start thinking like that. And if you can't get to 10, don't worry, they're going to come, because the next day you're going to be like, you know what? I always have this problem with this, and you'll figure it out. Quick story. I had this brilliant idea. We used to wake up at night and have these ideas, and I didn't want to turn the light on to write everything down.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what if I had a pen that had a little light at the end of it? And I thought, oh, I even have the perfect name. I'm going to call it the Night Writer. like this thing. And so I got all excited. I looked at the next day, I looked it up. There was already a pen, and guess what it was called?
What?
The Night Writer.
Come on.
Yeah, no, and I had no idea it even existed. And I was so bummed out that somebody had already had my idea, but that'll happen every time. But just keep going until you find one where there isn't, a Night Writer.
That's great. And so, you're quite a way down the line on your path, 20 years in this. So
yeah,
there's some people out there that are thinking about a career in marketing, or, let's just call it the new school, right? That are just getting started. And I don't mean by age. I just mean not just they're just coming out of college. I just mean they're just kind of grasping the idea of like what's possible in marketing, and they're interested, whether it's social media, whether it's email, whether it's like, what kind of advice would you give to that newbie that's thinking about kind of going down that path?
Well, what's worked for me, I would say, is learn the craft of sales, right? Understand the 7 steps of the sale, understand how to handle objections. and really study that, because that's helped in my, I do all the strategy for our clients. And so I really understand what their product is, what their service is. And I also understand who their competitors are, what the objections are and all that. And so I use my sales background all the time when I'm writing copy and deciding what kind of automation to set up for our clients. So I would say embrace sales and really learn that. And a lot of people are like, oh God, sales, that sounds dirty or something. Sales is how the world goes around, right? And if you have a negative connotation with sales and you're trying to do marketing, you've got an alignment problem. Yeah. So I would say really adopt sales, understand it, learn it, practice it, maybe even get a sales job, and you're going to be tenfold advanced on your marketing journey.
All right, well, let's switch it up a bit. Like, what's next? Like, bring us a little bit further, because things have changed. And that's the thing, is that people, so the main thing that we're getting here is that, like, I know, and we'll talk about like open rates and things like that, and competition for eyeballs and all this, but things have changed, but there's still a gold mine there. So I'm just trying to give a feel for people, like, sure, it's changed, but like, what's still there?
Yeah. Well, you know what? Things have changed, but also things have not. And it's weird, 15 years ago or some people were claiming, oh, email is going to die because nobody, none of the millennials even use email.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, oh, what's going to happen to email marketing? Well, you know what happened? The millennials got jobs and they had to use email, right? And email is so powerful because of the network effect, right? Everybody's on it, everybody uses it. And that's why it's so valuable. That's why it's still around and such a huge part of business, because everybody's in their email every day. I'm like 92% of consumers are in their email every single day. Business people are, constantly on email. So, so a lot of people have predicted that, oh, Facebook is going to ruin email, and every new social media that comes along is like, oh, that's the end of email marketing. Yet email marketing still keeps delivering the mail. And frankly, there's been a lot of innovation and a lot of technology and cool personalization stuff. We can get into that a little bit, but the cool part is that basically it's a lot still the same, right? It's built on the same protocols. In fact, when we design email, we can get into that a little later, but we have to go backwards about 10 years when we're doing stuff, using tables and stuff, because of all the email clients, the way they handle email, we have to go backwards a little bit. So anyway, a lot's changed. We can dig into the details of it. I think probably the biggest innovations, if you're asking me that, is, the modern ESP, right? I used to, like I told you, I had this list server, and it was like this email conversation. I would send the thing to an alias, and then it would come back, and then I would send a thing to say yes, to approve it and send it out. And it was very,
oh my gosh, that's amazing.
And so now you've got these beautiful drag and drop templates, and, so on one hand, stuff's a lot easier. However, you go to dig into that, people are like, oh, this should be easy. It's like DIY and drag and drop. And let me get in and create an account. Well, there are about 200 decisions. You go to set up a new MailChimp account, and we're MailChimp experts. If you go to set up a MailChimp account, there's about 200 decisions you have to make just to get the account set up.
Wow.
And then you have to figure out, what am I going to say? How often should I say it? You have the content problem, and then you have the design thing. What should this look like? I mean, we have our logo, but it needs to be more exciting than that. And so there's all kinds of decisions that have to happen. But I think, my life's a lot easier now that there are professional ESPs to use, I guess, is probably one of the biggest innovations.
Why have you decided to just focus on email? I mean, I think it's a very unique niche that you're in. And I know that it's tried and true. When I say unique, I think it's unique that you're not trying to be like everything to everybody. Like that's a common theme. Like there's a new platform, a new this. Oh, we can do that. Oh, we can do that. Like, why have you focused on email?
That is a great question. And it harkens back to a previous answer when I was talking about running a business like a Swiss watch and wanting to be really, really good at something. Because you're right, we show up, we do great work, and our clients are like, oh my God, we have somebody that's, not only are they creative, but they're accountable. And they're like, can you please take over my website? Can you please handle our social media? And we've just said no.
Mhm.
You know, we do email marketing, and we do it really, really well because
Mm.
we're focused on this one particular medium.
Mhm.
And there's so much to email marketing if you're doing it at a really high level, just to stay current with the platform and the changes and the challenges that come along, and the templates that break, and the email clients that don't look right anymore.
Yeah.
It's a big enough job alone just to do that. And you're right though. Everybody wants to do kind of everything. In fact, I have some partnerships with agencies who say they do email, and then
Yeah.
you talk to them and they're like, yeah, we don't, it's not really our sweet spot. And so they'll bring us in. There's a stick to the knitting as a phrase from back from the 80s, where we stay focused on something we're really, really good
Mhm.
at. And so far, there's been plenty of work for us just to do email marketing.
Oh, for sure. And I'll pick on myself for a moment. So I remember, and specifically with email, I remember some of our clients coming to us, like a couple of them came and I'm like, oh yeah, we could do that, or we can handle your newsletter, we can do that. And because we do our own, and I mean, as a media company, but
Right.
I forgot like how long it took us to build that process, to build
Yeah.
that design, to build, like, we're like 5 designs in to get to where we're at now. And I'm not saying there's not room, there's always room for improvement, but we're
Yeah.
like 5 designs in to get to where our newsletter is like an actual, like, great user, or great, I like to think great and getting better user experience for our clients and for our listeners and everything else. So I'm thinking, oh yeah, who does email? Like, we do this, that, yeah, oh yeah, we can add that. That can be an add-on where how much are we going to charge? And
Yeah. Right.
after like the second client, I'm like, you know what?
No
No,
more.
we're not doing email anymore. Like, yeah, we're not. Let's we'll find you someone. We didn't know you back then, but if I
Yeah.
did, I would have 100% referred them to you. But like, we put them in good hands for
Yeah.
agencies that do that every day. But I fell in my own trap, and I'm like, I was like, come on, how did I fall in the trap? Like, I know better than this, and I, even as an entrepreneur, was just like, I
Right.
know how
Well,
hard
it's
it is.
it's hard. We're opportunists, right? And so we see
Yeah.
opportunity, we want to go, hey, let's
Hmm.
figure that out. But man, if you're not in it every day, doing it's tough.
Yeah. So let's start getting into the weeds with this a little bit.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna open the can of worms, and I'm just gonna throw this out there. I know it's gonna vary from client to client, but we got to start somewhere. So what are some of the common mistakes that you see people doing in their email marketing that you notice?
Well, it's interesting. We put on our website at emailbroadcast.com the top 5 classic mistakes that people make. So because they're kind of the same thing. I mean, I've talked to hundreds
Yeah.
of business owners, and the same things kind of keep coming up. So
Mhm.
I'll tell you a couple of them. I think the first one is they don't really have a strategy or a plan.
Mm.
They beyond like, yeah, let's send out some email, let's drum up some business or whatever. And I'm like, okay, well, you should really be looking at your business goals first, right?
Mm.
What are the goals of the company? Are you trying to double sales over the next few years? Are you
Yeah.
trying to position yourself as experts in the market?
Mhm.
Are you trying to repair your reputation?
Yeah.
Are you trying to build a new brand, right? Because email will be different depending on what your overall strategy is. So
Mhm.
not a lot of foresight into strategy, I think, is probably one of the biggest things that I see.
So what you're telling me is, hey, we need some sales. We're low on revenue this month. Can somebody send out an email and do a special tomorrow? That's not an email strategy.
Yeah, God. Oh, yeah. The
But
tomorrow
Ken,
part. The tomorrow part's the best thing, right? Hey,
let me
let's send out an email. Make it good for tomorrow.
let, make it good. Hold on, let me play devil's advocate here, Ken.
Yeah,
Yeah, but every time we send out an email, we make money and it's working. So why don't we do that?
I know, and that's actually the tough thing for me, because they're like, no, it worked. I'm like, yeah, it worked about this much when it could have
Yes.
worked about this much.
Oh
Right.
my
Like
God.
if you had a better strategy and a plan and sent at the right time, and you really worked on the content, and you added more value in the message, and you were more creative with the subject line, and, and so, yeah, a lot of people think that, oh, I do email marketing. It's working pretty good.
Mhm.
And I'm like, you don't even understand the missed opportunities that you have because you're not doing it really, really well.
I'm guilty. I'm guilty. I'm gonna throw myself under the bus. I've done it. Heck, I'll probably do it next month. And I'm sorry to my team right now that's watching. We do have our campaigns, we do have our things, but I was just thinking about it. I'm like, man, we're getting into. So I'm gonna try to like. I didn't know bringing you on, Ken, was gonna be like. I thought I was getting these lessons, but now I'm feeling kind of guilty because I'm making these mistakes, and I'm picking on myself by like, because I know there's other entrepreneurs out there laughing right now, but you're doing it too. So don't laugh too hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Give me another one, Ken. I want another one. This is good.
I think the next biggest thing I see is that they're like, they're relying on one person, right? We talked about this a little bit already, but it's like, oh no, we have Charlie does the email. And I'm like, oh yeah, Charlie, is he your top salesperson? Well, no. Is he award-winning copywriter? What about copy editing? Does he have an English degree? No. What about designer? Is he a designer of the year, candidate for your guys' org? Is he technically, has he wired everything together with the CRM and the join forms and all that? And does your email look perfect in all the different email clients and on a mobile phone as well? Right. And so there's all these skill sets and they're asking like one person to be the master at this. And I'm sure, Charlie's a great guy.
For sure.
And he's doing what he can, but that's why it looks like, junk. Or it looks like everybody else's email and it's not that well written and there's an occasional mistake and the link is broken and the footer's wrong. And so relying on one person that should be a big signal to people. If like, we have one guy doing email. Okay, well, if your business is worth anything, if you're doing anything more than a couple $100,000 a year, you're probably blowing it.
Yeah. And the main thing I look at here is that because people don't think about, I mean, it's hard. It's kind of hard it's still hard for me, like to wrap my head around, like the fact that every time like that email sent out, like I've recorded over 4,000 episodes. I mean, we've put out over 30,000 pieces of content at this company as of this point. And that's like 4 years in, right? So we're still babies, we're still young. But every single time we push that button or that email goes out, like that's actually, in my opinion, like more important than our storefront. That's more important. Like that's your direct connection with who cares about you and your brand. And I used us as an example, but it doesn't matter. Like it doesn't have to be a media brand, whatever you're selling. The person that opens that email and looks at it, like that's your moment in time with them. That's an intimate interaction. They chose to open your email. They could have just deleted it. They cared enough about to give you their interaction, whether it's 5 seconds, 10, or they read the whole thing and they're on it for minutes, whatever. But like you're doing that with everybody that's possibly done business with you, which is huge. So they're watching and they're deciding if they're going to do business with you again. And so when you think about it like that, the pressure, like that, the amount of energy, the space that you put in, all the things you do, like I didn't get it at first. Like when we did our first email newsletter, I was scared. We were probably 2 years in. We had a database of over 10,000 people that wanted content from us already.
Yeah.
And I was like, we're not sending email. Like, I don't know. Then we sent one and we did it wrong. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we made a bunch of people mad. And we weren't even selling anything. We're just like, hey, this is the new episode, but we didn't do it right. And we didn't, and our frequency was off at first. And then like our frequency, there was a delay and all these other things that went into it. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And every time that we made a mistake, that hurt our brand, not to where it's like irreputable and people didn't like us and things like that, but it does. There's a cost and we don't know what that cost is. It hurt our brand every time. Whereas if I could go back in time and if I was a little bit more knowledgeable on the importance of email, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have all these people that care about what we're doing. Like, why would I disrespect? Why wouldn't I work with a company like Email Broadcast to make sure we get it right so they have the best user experience, which in turn will make us more money. They're happier. Like it's a win-win situation, but it's not like, it's more intimate than, and I love Instagram. I love all different marketing platforms. I think all of them can do, like they do what they do. But with that, you put a post on and maybe 10, 20% of the people that actually follow you and care about you might see it if you're lucky, if the algorithm does it or whatever. This is beyond this conversation. But for email, every single person that signed up for it, they're getting it, whether they open it or not, they're getting it, whether they read it or not, or look at the headline, they're getting it. So it's just such an important interaction with your audience and the people that ask for this content. So I'm like, it blows my mind. Like when somebody just sends an email or like what you said, Charlie does that. I'm like, I love you, Charlie, man. But we don't have a Charlie here, so I can say I love you, Charlie. But But I'm like, Charlie, this is big. We need a team on this one, or we need to work with somebody like email broadcast to get it done right.
Yeah, there's a lot there you just said that we could unpack, but yeah, it's amazing. I worked in the furniture industry for a while, and I'm kind of an expert in that industry, and I've been doing email marketing for furniture retailers for a long time. And so I speak in Vegas, and there's a company that sends an email about coming to Vegas, and their logo at the top is completely pixelated.
Oh,
and it's like 5 inches tall. It's like this giant logo.
That hurts.
And I've reached out, I've tried to contact them. I'm like, hey, you got to use a bigger image size for your logo. I haven't even gotten through. I found somebody else that knew them and sent them an email, and they're still blowing it. So, man, yeah, there are so many ways to screw up an email. You know what? And we found every one of them. I mean, been doing this for 20 years. And so you should see our QA checklist when we go to do an email message, because it contains about 30 things on there that we screwed up at one time or another. And there's about 110, I think there's 110 pieces of checks that we do on an email, because it's, when you go to press that button, that's scary. You're like, okay, here's 500,000 impressions on our reputation. Here's something interesting that when you were talking about, boy, this is yes, you were invited to the inbox. That is a privilege that you need to respect. So another big mistake people make is that they overstay their welcome, right? They barrage people with email. And, oh, it worked, let's send another one. It's like they choke the golden goose, right? They literally are like, we got sales yesterday, let's send another email today. So that's criminal. You got to stay away from that. You got to control yourself. You got to think about your email as a media channel and a revenue source that you want to be long-term. Yes, you could choke the life out of your email list and get a whole bunch of sales this month. And then you just killed it forever because you overdid it, right? So when people are sending the reputation, right? When you were talking about, hey, I'm about to send this email out, and you made people mad, you weren't even selling anything. The number one factor for people to, whether they're going to open your email or not, a lot of people, I kind of use this, and when I'm speaking, it's kind of a trick question. It's like, is it the subject line? People are like, yeah, it's a subject line. And then I'm like, no, it's really the sender name. And what I mean by the sender name is the reputation that you have in adding value, right? When they see that inbox hit and it has your name on it, and if they get excited because you're respecting their inbox, you're not over delivering, and you're always adding value, and there's something good in your emails, that's what gets them to open it. It's based on the reputation that you have from the past. So when you are making mistakes and you're throwing extra emails at people, your reputation is going down, and that's what's going to happen to your engagement. I don't understand why people aren't opening our messages anymore. Well, because you've been abusing your privilege.
Oh, that's so good. And we take that like really seriously. I think maybe once a year we'll do it, and it maybe twice a year we'll do an email that actually comes from me and that goes out to our previous guests, and we'll let them know, just it could be a general update. It could be, hey, we're booking the next quarter or something like that. But we do maybe once to twice a year we'll do that, or even just to reconnect. And that email, I mean, our newsletter is pretty good. We do well on that, and like, I guess industry wise, so we're hovering at 30%. But for media and newsletter, that's not bad. But when we send it from mine, because I think we provided value and we do respect people and their inboxes, that's over 90%. Like every time we've ever done, and that's for years running. And so that's because they're like, oh, okay, Adam wants to say something, like, let me hear what he, and sometimes it is like there's a sales pitch in there, and there's something that they could potentially buy. Sometimes there's not, but we're doing it, once or twice a year, and they know if I'm emailing them that's important. So I'm not saying that you have to be like that extreme. I'm just giving you an example of, man, you know what you're talking about. I always wondered, I never thought about it the way that you said it. So that wasn't the plan. The only reason I ever did that was because I'm like, well, we like functionality wise, it's like, no, I can't, because I need to answer that. So I'm like, we can't do that. We have to shut things down for me to do that. Like, this isn't a
It's a
an
common,
assistant role. It's not an
yeah,
assistant role. So like I have to make sure, because this is a direct communication with our audience and our guests and the people that trust us with their brand and their story. So I
right.
have to do that. Like that's my commitment to them, but they respect that and they understand it. And that's just a maybe an extreme example of it. But it's true. Like what you're saying is spot on. And I didn't even know why it was, but until you just told me. So thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, it's a pretty common mistake that people, they look at email as just a sales channel.
Mhm.
And I have to educate them and say, look, this needs to add value for your end user. Because imagine, would you listen to a radio station that was only commercials?
No, no.
No,
Oh,
right?
that's a good one. I've never heard anybody say that. It's
Yeah, you need to
amazing.
have content, right?
Yeah.
You need to keep me paying attention.
Yeah.
And so we talk about like a 3-to-1 ratio,
Mm.
right? Gary Vaynerchuk's good at this, right? Jab, 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 left hook.
Yeah.
So it's deliver, 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 deliver value. And all of a sudden your audience is like, wow, these guys are great guys. There's a reciprocity part of, impact where they're like, they kind of want it. They want to help you and they want to do something because you've been so generous with your information, your time, your resources, your knowledge, your curating content, whatever. And then when you ask, you've got high engagement already because people are opening your stuff because you've always been sending value. Then you get great results when you ask for the sale.
Awesome. First off, those are great examples, and I'm guilty of making some of those mistakes myself. And I'll probably forget, and I'll probably make them again. Hopefully, not as many in the future. But are there like any other examples or any other things that stick out to you?
Yeah, I see this very frequently in campaigns that we take over. I think maybe one of the biggest ones and most important ones is that people don't use the advanced tactics like leveraging automation and segmentation. They kind of have this intention to, they know about it, but they don't actually go and do it. And automation is so powerful. I think it's probably worth 50 to 70% of an email campaign, right? So the idea of automation is to send the right message to the right person at the right time. And the way you do that is you think about your customer's journey and you ask yourself, what message would we send to that person based on where they are with us right now, right? So let's say they're brand new, they just came to your website and you want to welcome them to your company or your brand. And so you might have a welcome series, right? And then maybe they go and find an actual product or a service that you offer, and there's a landing page, and they sign up there. Well, now they're in what I would call a sales series, right? You put them in a sales funnel and they're on the top of a sales series. So you'd want to have a number of automated messages that are delivering that pitch for that particular product or service. Maybe if you're in e-commerce, having an abandoned cart message and something that's maybe funny. I mean, it needs to be brand on, but maybe it's funny or unusual or whatever, gets your attention and gets people want to continue and make that final purchase. Speaking of the first purchase, right? Having an automated message that acknowledges somebody when they finally make that first purchase, right? Welcome. Hey, you're now a customer of ours. Welcome to the family. Maybe there's an onboarding series. If people buy something that's not simple and they need some education on how to get the most out of your system, have an onboarding series. It could be a VIP acknowledgement. Somebody makes their 10th purchase, or they finally get to, $5,000 total lifetime value. Maybe there's this little celebration email that goes on. So, there's anniversary messages, birthday messages. And then at the end of the life cycle, when people are kind of disengaging from your brand, maybe there's an email series that would work in re-engaging them and bringing them back in. So thinking about that customer journey, setting up those automations, and then also segmenting your audience. Here's a big hint. If you're sending every email to every single person on your email list, you're probably blowing it.
Yes.
Right? Because they're not all the same. And by treating them the same, treating the people that are brand new, just like the people that have been with you for a long time, or people that are disengaged, and treating them all the same, your message is going to be diluted. And you're not really appealing to any particular audience. And the more you do that, the more disengagement your audience is going to have. So you really should be pitching and targeting certain segments of your list with certain messages. And so that's pretty advanced stuff for most people, not what they're doing. They're not really sure how to do it. And so that's kind of the stuff that we've been doing. That's kind of next level and taking your email game to the next step.
Man, that's such a great tip. And you just gave me an idea here. So we do a lot of what we do here is helping people set up and launch their own podcasts, and we do all the editing in the back end. And historically, we've done most of it's been, mostly conversations. And we still will do that in terms of an agency, because we do a little bit different in terms of the way that we do production. So
Right.
it's not, we're not on the automation side or anything like that. But my point being is that why don't I have an onboarding sequence that I'm sending out, like welcoming to them? I can't personally thank every one of our clients. I can't personally, provide them a tip on a one-on-one call. It's just not feasible. Like as the business has grown, like I can't be on every call, right?
Right.
But why don't I have that done? Like an onboarding. This doesn't even, what I like about what you're bringing up is that, and for everybody listening, I don't know if you caught it, like this doesn't have to be all sales. This can be educational. This can be retention. Yes. This can be a lot of other things. This is how a client engages with your brand overall. So in our case, if they're setting up, a call with us, they're working with the director of agency, the podcast producers, the social media team, they have all these moving parts. Why aren't they getting an automated email sequence from myself, right, that's talking about like the journey of podcasting or specialized content that only they would get as our clients and as our welcome and appreciated clients? Like, why are we not doing that? Why? Because I didn't think about the idea till you just now told me, Ken. Why didn't you tell me this years ago?
Well, I'm sorry I didn't get to you, but that brings up a great, I've got this example. There was a client of ours, More Furniture for Less, huge furniture retailer here in the West. And they had dozens of people in their customer service area. And they get the same question all day, every day. People would buy the furniture, go home, and then completely forget about what the salesperson said about how they get it, the delivery or the pickup. Yeah. And so all day long, people were calling. So we created this email and we took a picture of the yellow slip that they took home with them. And we put a circle on it. And we said, congratulations. I'm sure you're excited about your new furniture. Here's what's happening with your delivery and your pickup. And the calls went to like near zero. And they saved tens of thousands of dollars not having to employ those people to make those with one automated email.
Amazing. And I know as people are listening, like they're getting ideas. So this is amazing. All right, Ken. So this is awesome. And I guess next, so I get it. I understand it. Email marketing, I understand what we're doing, but like, who is this appropriate for? Like, who gets the most value out of working with you and your team? Is it just like enterprise level? Like, you have to be a big company to do this, or, are small businesses able to take advantage and work with you and your team? I mean, give me a little bit more of the background there.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, really, any business should be doing some level of email marketing, whether or not they can afford a full service email marketing like us, having experts handle it, is actually pretty surprising. 80% of our clients pay less than they would invest in a single part-time employee, and they get to hire my entire crack team. So it's not as expensive as it might sound. But who's full service good for? There are a couple of categories. If you have a business, if you're doing over 5 million in revenue, and you still have like one guy doing your email marketing who not the best designer, or the best copywriter, the best project manager, all in one, because that person's impossible to find, you're probably leaving all kinds of money on the table, right? We usually make a 10 to 40% impact in top line revenue. And so if you're a $5 million company, that's potentially a $500,000 increase or more. So you should be doing full service email with somebody, even if it's not us. But there's a couple other categories that kind of people fall into. If you have something complicated, like if you have a complicated product or service that kind of needs a buyer education to go along with it, that's red flag. You should be probably doing really good email marketing. If you have a long sales cycle where there's like a lot of nurturing that's needed, that's a key indicator. If you sell relatively high dollar purchases, just anything where it's a significant purchase in somebody's life, email is going to be helpful there. If you do B2B sales, or if you have an inside sales team, like the example I gave earlier, or an outside sales team, Having email do follow-up is amazing. If you give bids regularly, like if you're out, giving bids, it's amazing. I've gotten so many bids from people and they've never followed up like a single time for like $50,000, $60,000 landscaping jobs and roofing jobs and stuff. I'm like,
Wow.
those people should be using email marketing.
So one little a email follow-up sequence, the difference
Yeah,
between them doing that and their if they're not doing it, their competition's probably not doing it either.
exactly.
So
And
say, hey,
so,
here goes my bid. Let me know.
right. And 4 weeks later, you can't even remember who was who.
Yeah.
Right. But if the people had followed up with 2 or 3 emails about your neighbor that just got their job done, who were happy and, and just built some credibility, they wouldn't be thinking about anybody else. So that's a big deal. If you have fierce competition like that, right? And it doesn't necessarily mean you're giving bids, but you're like in a fierce dogfight with your competitors, and you can do a great job at email marketing and your competitors are not, you're going to rise to the top. If you have an e-commerce website, right? Or if you have high volume of internet traffic, that means that you've got an audience and you should be offering a lead magnet. You should be building an email list. It's a valuable asset in your business, when you're using it, of course. And then when you go to exit too, people are always like, how big is your email list? So those are kind of some, and then there are particular industries that we've done a really nice job in serving, adventure travel, aesthetic medicine, brokers, e-commerce, lawyers, furniture, nonprofits, retail, solar, startups, so we have a lot of experience in those kind of things, but we've already niched down to email marketing only. We're really good at learning a new industry. And so it's not really industry specific, more, can it work for you? Right. This should be an investment that returns a dividend, right? Yeah. So email marketing shouldn't cost you anything. It should be a money maker if you're doing it well.
Yeah, and that's one of the key things. So when people talk about, is it working? Is it not working? Should I be doing it? Well, you pretty much kind of figure it out pretty quickly. And I'm going to throw this out there because so few people are doing it, in my opinion, the correct way. And I'm not saying we're doing it perfectly over here. We've had our bumps and bruises, and maybe we have some good things going. But that being said, there's people out there that, in my opinion, are just sitting on lists. They're watching this right now, and though that money machine, that money tree is ready to get shook, in my opinion. Like they gotta connect with you or connect with a team that knows what they're doing, so they can start, in a tasteful way, reaching out or creating the right campaigns and providing value, really, because the people that originally supplied you that email, they were looking for value. Maybe some of them found it somewhere else. Maybe some of them still have that unmet need. And for those that have that unmet need, in my opinion, they're probably pretty welcoming to somebody providing them with value and still looking to meet that need, which is ultimately what we're doing. I mean, that's at the heart of it all.
Yeah. A lot of people are already making an investment in email marketing, but they don't know what it is. Because it's half of one guy's time doing it, and they haven't really done the math and go, geez, that guy's salary is $80,000 a year, so 40,000 plus benefits is what we're spending on email marketing right now. What are our results? If they're not fantastic, then you have a big opportunity to look for somebody like us that's specialist at it.
That's awesome. So what's next? What's next for you? What's next for email broadcast? Like, what's next for the company?
Another 20 years of email marketing, I guess.
Yeah.
We're pretty focused. I'm also a story brand guide, a certified story brand guide. And so we're helping people a little bit with some of their website stuff, mainly around copy, because sometimes I'm doing an email campaign and I'm like, I'm going to drive all kinds of traffic back to the site, but this site is not performing.
Not a match.
Not going to perform. And so I help them a little bit with that. So it's not really an additional service. I only do it for my email clients, really. But yeah, we love what we do. I have a team. We're spread out all over the US. We run a remote organization. That's been fantastic and also been challenging. We could talk about that if you want, but yeah, we're just excited to keep perfecting our craft. We want to be the world's greatest email marketing agency. Awesome. Maybe we are.
I'm in. I love it. This is great. Well, Ken, again, awesome having you on the show today and just learning more about your background. Your passion for email just comes through like the screen. Like I know you do what you say you do. If people are watching this and they want more information on email broadcast, what's the best way for them to follow up and to connect?
Well, they can go to emailbroadcast.com and you can't miss it. It's book an appointment button all over the website. They just book an appointment with me. It's a free 20-minute consultation. I'll sit down, I'll listen to their business. I want to hear their business model, some of kind of what they're doing. And I'll be like, hey, we might make sense for you. And if we don't, I'll tell them. In fact, we have some Google reviews where people were like, wow, he actually told me he couldn't help me, but he sent me somewhere else. And it was great. So that's probably the primary thing they can do. In the meantime, they can go to the site. They can also sign up and get those 5 classic email marketing mistakes that almost all companies make. I think that's really valuable. That series gets followed up with a 20 for 20 series. We're celebrating our 20 years in business. We put together our 20 top tips for email marketing and business. It's a video series that'll come as well if they just want to get educated. Of course, they can email me. Right.
I was going to say, if you don't leave an email, man, I don't even know. We're not even going to release this. What's that email?
It's Ken, like Barbie and Ken at emailbroadcast.com. In fact, what I'll do for your listeners, anybody that sends me an email, they could just say, give me the 20 facts. I got a document that's the 20 facts every business owner should know about email marketing. And I'll send that as kind of a gift for people. Just send me an email and say, give me the 20 facts and I'll send that along.
Awesome. Well, Ken, really appreciate you coming on the show today and really just sharing more about your background, the mission behind what you're doing to help your clients and really to generate value across the board for the people that are opening the emails, for the people that are sending them, for the businesses, the jobs that are being created. I mean, it's just a great story. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. Hope you got a lot of value out of this. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, especially if you're a first-time listener, like hit that subscribe button. We definitely want you to be a return listener and visitor, have many more great mission-based guests and entrepreneurs coming on, and don't want you to miss any of those. And Ken, really, it has been a pleasure. Thank you.